The only reason equity's on the table in Austin, the only reason defunding police is on the table in Austin is because of years and years of grassroots work pressuring the city council. And only this year, because it is now a more public national cry, did we make these advances.
Rojas is a member of Communities of Color United, a coalition of grassroots organizations that has been advocating for racial equity and divesting in the police budget since 2015. At a council meeting in August, over 200 constituents turned out to voice their opinion on the idea.
This is a moment to make deep and structural changes to the city budget.
See this as an opportunity to further strengthen the police force and to continue investing in alternatives to policing.
The city council took a small step after the murder of George Floyd to try to hold APD accountable, and it seems we'll continue to only get small steps.
And the council agreed. Austin had one of the biggest cuts to their police budget in the country.
All of the hands raised in favor. It passes unanimously.
The city reallocated significant funding from its police department to other city programs. The council voted unanimously in August to eliminate the upcoming cadet classes, diverting millions to programs that address homelessness, mental health, and family violence prevention. The budget also moved programs from the Austin PD jurisdiction. Councilmember Greg Casar introduced the proposal.
We've been working on these issues for so long, but we were always so short on the resources. And when we finally decided that we would spend just somewhat less on the strategy of locking folks up and a little bit more on community safety solutions, we saw that we could make a really transformative change. So now today in Austin, if you call 911, you hear, do you need fire, police, EMS, or mental health? So that mental health responders can go to those calls where really a police officer is not the best trained person to do that.
But Rebecca Sanchez, another member of Communities of Color United, feels as though the city isn't doing enough to look at the role of policing in the community.
This conversation about defunding the police and everything that moves with it, like a lot of us politicians involved, like totally moved away from what this centered around, which is about Black death. So how do we stop the Black death is the question that everybody should be grappling with and trying to figure out. And instead it became a PR opportunity for defunding offices, administration, all of these things that, you know, layer up to the Jenga of it instead of like really reconstructing how do we keep people safer? Because that we keep bringing that to the forefront of the conversation and everybody's like, but you defunded the police. But none of the mechanisms of policing, none of the surveillance, none of the databases, none of the tools.
I know the times are difficult right now. I know the policing profession is under scrutiny and it's under reimagination and redesign. And I know a lot of that is taking place here in Austin. But I stand here with confidence knowing that APD will come out of this a strong agency.
The department is going through a leadership change as well. Austin Police Chief Brian Manley will be leaving his post at the end of March. He faced harsh criticism after police killed an unarmed man, Michael Ramos, and seriously injured nonviolent protesters last year.
It's never just been just defund the police. It's that we have ideas of how the city can do better by its communities of color. So like there was all this kind of like, how do we make sure that departments that we know communities of color need and actually will keep them safe and keep them secure, things like, you know, public health, things like Parks and Rec, and making sure that there's programming or after school programs or, you know, all these other sorts of things that like look to the well-being and not the criminalization of our communities.
The council recently purchased hotels to house people experiencing homelessness with funds from its Housing and Planning Department's general obligation bonds, and will use some money from the reoccurring fund taken from the police department's budget to provide services to the residents of the hotel. Councilmember Casar said their goal is to buy a hotel in every single city council district, so it's not falling on any one area.
The strategy on homelessness in most American cities has been to just move people around. And the goal now is let's actually deal with this with homes rather than just handcuffs. Because if we actually house people that are living on the street, we can reduce homelessness. And right now, during the pandemic, we have lots of these hotels that are sitting half empty or even more empty because tourism has dropped so much. And so it creates this real opportunity for cities to buy those hotels and already immediately have housing options where then we can provide services and connect people to jobs and permanently end their state of homelessness, thereby reducing the amount of homelessness in our community.
But the change in the police budget has already met backlash. At a Back the Blue pledge in Houston, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick responded to the cuts by saying,
"The city of Austin is a disaster if you haven't been there. A great city. Now one of the most dangerous cities in America and definitely in Texas."
The budget reallocation started months ago, but it hasn't dramatically changed the city's safety, according to FBI data. Ultimately, both community activists and city council members are reimagining what public safety means.
We're going to be able to show as Austin that by stepping up and saying we need to think of safety as more than just more police officers, that we'll be able to show that that actually makes us a safer city.
We're really reimagining public safety, and we have amazing ideas of how you could take from policing, not just take, but actually go back to investing and advancing equity in our communities to go way more upstream. And we're in that process right now.
It's important to recognize acts of racism that have occurred. It's important to recognize mass incarceration in our community. It's important to recognize that we need to reduce police violence. But then it's also really important to move from that recognition to action. And that's what we're working on getting done this year.